This is the Buggles singing Video Killed the Radio Star. And for those people who grew up around the same time that I did, early 80s, 1981 to be exact, they would know that on this day, August 1st, 1981, that was the first video/song that was ever played on, at the time, one of the greatest cable channels of all time that had just started, MTV. MTV started August 1st, 1981, so it's 39 years old. Its 40th anniversary will be next year, I should say. So I figured that would be a good way to start this episode. It is August 1st, 2020, and this is Dylan Knows, episode 360. What the hell, August? Now, I don't know if I really should have called it that, because all the stuff that's happened this week is not because of August. Nothing really of importance that I know of has happened today, but I've got basically 4 full pages of stuff that happened this week, and it's a lot of crazy stuff. Some sad deaths, I'm not going to say good deaths, but deaths that are supposed to hopefully will bring about something about coronavirus or COVID-19, whatever you want to call it. Ryan Reynolds is in the news a couple times. George R.R. Martin is in a lot of trouble right now. I'll tell you why. Baseball is being affected by coronavirus. And saying that, the NBA, the NHL are underway as well. And veterans have went to training camp for football, so sports are starting to get on a long ways here. I give you my thoughts on Pokemon Go Fest. When I did the show last week, we had just finished day 1 and we still had day 2 to go through. I'll talk about that. Talk about other stuff going on in the Pokemon world. I have not played Fortnite now in almost 24 hours, actually more like 36 hours. So there have been some changes to that as well. We'll talk about too. Some bad movies, some independent trailers out there. Thanksgiving is in the news. Dunkin' is in the news again. Starbucks is in the news. The Joker, Tom Hanks and Rita Wilson have made the news this week as well. Drive-thrus, not just for movies, but for Halloween as well. A guy renames the Star Wars movies, and it's actually brilliant. Got all kinds of junk on my notes here. The first animal death, which is sad, from COVID, happened this week. It's like juice all over things. I'm probably going to short out the computer, and it's going to destroy it. I made dinner this week. A lot of local news, including I am beyond excited about something, which I'll tell you about in a second. Christmas is in the air. Teenage bounty hunters, which is interesting. So as I said, some interesting deaths. Someone actually discovered a literal Easter egg, if you want to call it. Not really Easter eggs, but technically you could call it Easter eggs, in the movie Twilight. And more talk about that asshole in the White House. So, that's not going to please a lot of people. Mini great white sharks and big great white sharks. Shark death. The hurricane is coming. And a Batman animated film is going Choose Your Own Adventure. A lot of local news, I said. Bugs Bunny turns 80. Turned 80 this week, and Howard the Duck came out this day many years ago. But I'm not talking about that. So, without further ado, welcome to August. This is my Shards of Narsil shirt from Lord of the Rings. I've been wanting to wear this for a while. Got it from my loot crate, so I figured I'd wear this today. So we're going to start off with some death. Really, really sad local death occurred this week. I've been listening to 105.7 The Fan, which is sports radio, for a long time now, probably. I would say close to 10 years now I've been listening to it. Started when a guy I worked with at Hanover in our old building. He turned it on in the afternoon, despite the fact that we wanted to listen to music while we worked, but he wanted to listen to sports radio, so we made a deal and we listened to it. So I got into that. And then gradually, when I was driving home from work, I would listen to Scott and Jeremy, who was my favorite show, Scott Garceau and Jeremy Kahn. So a few years ago, one of the big things about the radio show is that they get a lot of callers that keep coming back over and over again. They call back over and over again. They become like, people, people who are always, people that they know, and like they're regulars. So everybody knows their name and what they're going to talk about, and they can joke about stuff. Well, they got a call once from a very young guy. I think he was around 8 years old when he started calling him. His name was Mo Gabba. He was a young boy who has been blind since birth because he has a harsh form of cancer, and he got it when he was a baby, and it blinded him, and he's been fighting it his whole life. He's had successes and he's had failures, and he slowly, his story and his constant, he never let the pain or the constant hospitalizations or his knowing that he might not live that long, never let that get in the way of his shining personality. He had one of the sweetest laughs you've ever heard. He always tried to make picks for basketball games and hockey and baseball and football and stuff like that, and would talk about other stuff as well. And he became a Baltimore celebrity, so much so that Ravens players and Orioles players, embraced him, and they had him throughout the first ball, and they had him interview Ravens at FanFest. They had him actually do last year, not this past year's one, but 2019's draft. The Ravens had him read their 4th round draft pick. It was the first draft pick ever written in Braille because that's the only way he could read. And just, he was a super fan. Everybody loved him. He was the sweetest, nicest guy. Jeremy and Scott went out of their way to help raise money for him and get him on the show as often as they can and do events with him and get him in connection to the Ravens and Orioles and stuff like that. And it became a big deal. He became really, really good friends with certain members of the Orioles and the Ravens. So we earlier in the week, last week, we had heard that he had been on the uptick, but all of a sudden it came back and was hitting him harder than ever. And his mother was really starting to worry because this looked worse than it had been in a while. But again, Mo kept his head up, was very happy and chill. And the Orioles decided, hey, you know what? Let's do a favor for the young guy. So the Orioles did on Monday. Sunday or Monday, Mo was inducted into the Orioles Hall of Fame. Only the second fan in Orioles history, which started in 1954, to be inducted into the actual Orioles Hall of Fame. And the other one was Wild Bill Hagee, who was a big super fan from the Roar 33rd, the Roar 34, from the Roar 34 and 33rd Street, and all that crazy stuff. So Mo Gabba was brought in and was given inducted into the Orioles Hall of Fame. The next day, he passed away at the age of 14. He was born the same year as my daughter. Is slightly older because his birthday was earlier in the year. My daughter's birthday is at the end of the year, but they all were born in 2006. So Mo passed away this week at the age of 14. It's been devastating to both Orioles and Ravens players, as well as the 101, 105.7, the fan community, and it has spread out because everybody knew who Mo was. So members from the Naval Academy and the governor and the mayor of Baltimore and county execs and the University of Maryland and everybody from the area were just pouring in their condolences and remembrances of Mo. And before the Orioles opening night game against the Yankees earlier this week, normally they would do, since it was the opening day for the Orioles, and granted with no fans in the stands, still the first home game they played this season. Usually they would do this whole big introduction with the orange carpet and all this stuff, but with no fans, why do that? Instead, they did something more somber, where the both the Yankees and the Orioles came out onto the field, lined up on either side of the field, and remembrance video was played of Mo, and it was one of the saddest, but at the same time encouraging videos you've ever seen, showing how great this young guy was and how full of life he was, and how he made a change in the sporting world here in Baltimore. And then Scott Garceau, who does the Mass and TV stuff, he added his own little ending bit to it with one of the greatest lines. Is like, for the first time ever, tonight's ball game, Mo will be able to watch it for himself because he's in heaven, no longer blind, looking down on the Orioles and watching his first Orioles game in real life. It was a hard day. There's a what do you call it? One of those things, petition to change one of the streets in Baltimore near the stadium to Mo Gabba Way, and I think it's an absolutely brilliant idea. So we'll see what happens with that. So kind of a rough day for Maryland sports fans. So Mo Gabba passed away this week. We also lost Olivia de Havilland this week. She was the one of the oldest actresses in Hollywood. At the age of 104, she was in Gone with the Wind, and was also, that's the one she's most famous for, but she was also was one of the biggest stars of her time in the 1930s and 1940s. So she passed away at the age of 104 this week. Director Sir Alan Parker, he also passed away this week as well. He is a director who's been around for a long time. He directed the Pink Floyd movie The Wall. He directed The Commitments, which was a great movie about a Scottish or Irish rock band. Midnight Express, which is considered one of the greatest films of all time. He did Fame, the original Fame movie. He also did Mississippi Burning, which was one of the greatest movies about Medgar Evers, I believe. No, it wasn't Medgar Evers. That was the other one. This was one about the 3 young black girls who were killed by the Ku Klux Klan in the 1960s, burned on a cross or something like that, and the court case that happened after that. It was a huge movie. Gene Hackman was in it, and it won it got nominated at least for lots of Oscars and stuff like that, based on a true story. So he directed that. So Sir Alan Parker passed away this week. Before I get to those people, Jacqueline Scott, who was an actress on the Fugitive TV show, she died this week at the age of 89. The Roots, one of the Roots founding members, Malik B, died at the age of 47 this week as well. The Roots is one of those popular bands from the late 90s, early 2000s. I think they still do a job with like Conan O'Brien or something like that. I'm not sure about that. And finally, you don't want to be, you can call it schadenfreude if you want, but you don't want to be happy about the death of anybody. But for those of us, and what I'm about to say, is not, it's political, but it's not a opinion. We all know that there is a group of vocal people out there, politicians, Karens, morons, idiots, whatever, who believe that's infringing on their personal rights to have to wear a face mask to protect others and themselves from COVID-19. So they're refusing to wear masks. And then when they are told to leave establishments that say you have to wear a mask, they freak out and are videotaped smashing things, leaking windows, coughing on people, proving that it's all a hoax, fake, whatever. Just all kinds of terrible, awful things that they're doing. And it's due to that asshole in the White House kept pushing and pushing, saying that it's a hoax, that none of this is true. It's the Democrats trying to ruin me. That is just a way of the Democrats sticking their nose at me, saying, look at what you did, and he's taking no responsibility for it. And that the whole world is involved in on this conspiracy to get rid of him because everybody hates him, even though he's the greatest thing in the world, and it's a hoax, something like that, and his idiot moron followers believed him. Well, that includes politicians. So when he did his Hitler rallies all around the place, there was one that was in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Unfortunately, on my birthday, I remember I was talking about it on my show when I did my show on my birthday a few months ago. And one of the people there was Senator Herman Cain, who last week I said that he had contracted COVID-19, more than likely from exposure to it at that show. And Herman Cain passed this week due to COVID-19. He was an ardent non-mask wearer, went out of his way saying that it's against his rights to have to wear a mask and that it's all fake and stuff like that. So he never wore a mask, and unfortunately he has passed away due to COVID-19. On top of that, also, the Whole Foods CEO is another guy who does not believe in mask wearing, does not have people in his establishment wearing masks. And in fact, there are groups of people who have written memes, about, people, that are making fun of libertards and stuff like that, that, highlights the CEO of Whole Foods in it. CEO of Whole Foods died of COVID-19 this week as well. And they removed that meme because it was not good. Bill Merlisberg, I don't know. He passed away this week as well from COVID-19. So what does this tell you, boys and girls? What it tells you is that, if you decide you're not going to wear your mask, you're going to get sick. Yes, there's also potential case that if you do wear a mask, you get sick also. But there are other ways you can contract it. But protecting, wearing a mask, it's not just protecting you, it's protecting other people. And to go out of your way to not wear masks is frankly stupid. And if you've actually paid any attention to the proper news, you'll notice that everybody who has declared that they weren't going to wear masks, not everybody, but the majority of people who've declared that have gotten COVID-19. The White House is rife with people who've gotten COVID-19 because that asshole does not allow people to wear masks in the White House. Senators who decide that they want to stick it to the libertards aren't wearing masks either, are getting COVID-19 and are dying from it. People who've gone to rallies or protests that were, they didn't wear masks, they have been getting COVID-19 and getting sick. And they've been turning around and saying, oh my God, it's not a joke. What was the guy, that former Chuck Woolery? Chuck Woolery went out of his way to write a tweet about how it's fake to wear a mask. You don't need to wear a mask, whatever. His son contracts COVID-19. He retracts his statement and then deletes his account on Twitter because he realizes that I'm wrong because you're a stupid ass moron. You're listening to these stupid ass moron people. And they're, for one person, two people that contract it and discover, oh my God, there's something that this is real. Why were we, saying it? There are other people saying, well, it hasn't affected me, so it's not real. So we're never going to get that balance, and that's the only way we're going to be able to get through this. As of now, we're not getting through this shit at all. And it's not getting any better, and it's not going to get any better. And that's pissing me off because I'm out of work, and I'm going to be out of work till stuff gets solved. The unemployment now is going to be getting rid of the extra $600, which I don't need at this moment, but was a big help for us during this time. It's a bigger help for people who need it because they refuse to do more money for that type of stuff or unemployment stuff. So this world's in a shitty place right now. And one last note on this before I get back to other things. Another Republican representative, Louis Gayhart, who also refused to wear masks in public, whatever, has contracted COVID-19 as well. And now he's declared that he got it from wearing a mask when he actually never wears a mask. So where the hell did that come from? It's to get the sheeple to believe, well, this guy got it from wearing a mask. He didn't wear a mask. He just said that. So you idiots will be like, oh, well, wearing a mask, you can get COVID-19 anyway, which is true. You can, but if you look at the protests for Black Lives Matter, where people were protesting like crazy, and they were all wearing masks and keeping as social distance as they can, there was never been an uptick in any of the places where the big Black Lives Matter protests were because they were playing it safe. So never going to end, and our world is fucked. Also, this asshole claims that old people should not be in jail no matter the crime, mainly due to the fact he released 2 or 3 of his old dude friends who have dirt on him and were going to probably be willing to spill it if he didn't commute their sentences or whatever. So he released about 2 or 3 of his old buddies, like a Stone and stuff like that, Roger Stone, who's like 70 plus years old, declaring that old people should not be in prison. And yet there are people like the Golden State Murderer, who's about 70 years old, who is in jail. Are you saying now that old people should be released no matter the fact that they kill people or do other stuff like that? You're a fucking moron, asshole, and I'm so sick of your shit. Speaking of that, the SS has made an appearance in New York City now. A couple of people have been abducted by vans, have now hit New York City. Luckily, these the federal agents who've been screwing up the protests in Portland have finally left. And hey, surprisingly, there was peaceful protests in Portland after they left. Surprise, surprise how that works. All right, so I'm not going to really get into politics anymore for a little while. It comes back a little later, but I'm going to try to move on to some other stuff since I've been talking about this stuff now for about 20 minutes now. So let's continue. George R. Martin's in the news. The writer of the Game of Thrones story, who has not written a new Game of Thrones novel in 10 years now, almost, it seems like. Even though the fact that the Game of Thrones TV show by HBO has already come and gone without his actual finale of the book series. He's got 2 books left, I think. And I think The Winds of War is the name of this one that he's supposed to be working on and has been working on now for close to 3 to 4 years. Well, in an interview probably last year, I guess, it was maybe last year or years ago or whatever when this first came up, George R. Martin said in an interview, he's like, look, I know it's taking forever for the book to come out, but I'll tell you what, if my new book is not out by July 29th, 2020, you can arrest me and imprison me. It's August 1st, 2020. August 29th, 2020 was 3 days ago. And there is no new George R. R. Martin Game of Thrones novel, and there is none on the schedule, book schedule, for at least the rest of the year that we've seen. So now we're looking at the earliest 2021 now. But he literally said in an interview years ago, it wasn't last year, it was like years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, if my book isn't done by 2020, you can imprison me. Well, guess what, George R. R. Martin? We're going to imprison your ass. You're never going to get it finished. So why should we even bother anymore? Let's imprison your ass and let's get somebody to actually write the books for you and get them out so we can put this ending chapter and just move on to other stuff. We'll see what happens. Depression's not a funny thing. And everybody at some point has probably undergone some sort of form of depression. Some of it is worse than others. Some of it is actually a medical issue, which is a lot more harder to deal with. A lot of people believe that that's why Robin Williams committed suicide, was he was depressed all the time, despite the fact that he always put up a happy face and made jokes all the time. That's his defense mechanism to tell everybody, hey, I'm good, don't worry about me. But in the end, he was still depressed and sad. So it's not a joke, but I just wanted to put this in there because this is kind of interesting. People believe now that depression may have caused a woman to think she is a chicken. I know that sounds funny, and it is kind of a funny headline, but at the same time, I wasn't trying to make light of people who have, depression. I just thought it was an interesting headline, and that depression can make you do apparently weird or crazy things. So just wanted to let that know about that. Walmart and CVS, despite the fact that they announced that masks do need to be worn in their shops, are now saying, well, we're not going to enforce it. So if you come in without a mask, we don't care. Do whatever. They were just, I guess, trying to save face when it comes to that as well. 2020 just keeps getting weirder. Actually, no, let's not get there yet because I can lead that to this other stuff on this page right here. So give me a second here. Rewind. There is a mini great white shark called a cold salmon shark, and they look exactly like great white sharks, except for their little itty bitty minis, and they're so cute. Um, Again, it's like cats. They're probably the world's most perfect killing machine. But everybody looks at them and say, "Oh, aren't you adorable? You're so cute. I just want to hug you, kiss you, and love you." And they're like, "Dude, I just want to eat your face." Um, so, but yes, I guess if you want to see what they look like, let's see if I can find it up here for you real quick. It is cold. Come on, cold salmon shark. Well, they're a lot bigger than I thought they were. But yeah, they're a lot bigger than I thought they were, but they're a little bit small. The ones that I saw, they look like they were baby sharks. I thought that's what it was. So maybe it's not the best story in the world. But oh, there's a good picture of them. That's right there. See how cute they look. They're so cute. But yes, they are baby mini great white sharks. We're going to talk more about great white sharks later in the episode. There's some couple stories about great white sharks coming up. One in Maine and one in New York. We'll talk about that in a second. What's going on in 2020 again? That should be the thing I talk about every week. Let's see what weird stuff we can get into today. So August 1st, 2020, this week, the week ending August 1st, 2020, I should say. Random people have been receiving packages of seeds from China. Now, nobody knows what the seeds are. The government or whoever's in charge of that, the biological people, whatever, they're saying, do not, under any circumstances, plant those seeds. We don't know what they are. They could be invasive species that could destroy the ecological balance in our world. They could be something new entirely. They could be something that could be carrying diseases. We don't know, So I haven't gotten a pack, but there are many people who have been getting these packages of seeds from China. So if you get one of these packs, by all means, do not open the pack of seeds. Do not eat any of the seeds. Do not plant any of the seeds. Get in touch with your local governments or whatever and ask them to come take it away from you. What else you got 2020? Monster cane toads kills dogs with toxic glands. They have surfaced in Florida. So now we have monster cane toads, which are giant toads that have poisonous glands that if a dog so much as brushes up against one, sniffs it, licks it, whatever, is going to die. And they are now, and of all places, of course, Florida, home of the meth gators, which is another thing we've got going on in Florida. West Virginia has got a crazy species to look out for as well. The zombie cicada, which was infected with a mind-controlling fungus, has returned to West Virginia. So now we have zombie cicadas that are going to start terrorizing the United States. Oh, and remember back in February, March, they were talking about murder hornets, and I made a story last week, updated the murder hornets, saying that they will not be able to make nests here. Well, the first confirmed monster hornet has been trapped in Washington State, so we have confirmation they're here. So we have monster cane toads, zombie cicadas, mysterious seeds from China, murder hornets. Oh, yeah, and Hurricane Isaias is getting ready. It's probably smacking into Florida even as we speak right now. And the path has it coming up the eastern seaboard, affecting North Carolina probably sometime on Monday, maybe even before then. And coming up, as of now, there's different radars. One has it swooping all over Maryland, and we're going to get hit with it Tuesday early morning. Others have it maybe shooting off the coast, and we'll still get some of the residual rain, but it will not effectively be a hurricane hitting us. So to be continued, but hey, if you live along the eastern seaboard like I do, watch out for Hurricane Isaias. And next week's episode of Dylan Knows, we will discuss the impact, if any, that we got that week by Hurricane Isaias. I talked about the NHL is back today, August 1st. The NBA came back on 7/31. Major League Baseball is underway. NFL veterans are in camp, Baltimore Ravens at least, so they have veterans in camp. So camp is starting for NFL underway. NFL veterans are in camp, Baltimore Ravens at least, so they have veterans in camp. So camp is starting for NFL veterans. So they're on their way to getting football started as well. Hopefully they'll be able to get that all in as well. So we got that, and I don't have it here, but I will add it since we're talking video games. This weekend, there it is right there. The Orioles, my team, was supposed to play the Miami Marlins in Miami. Let's see, the season opened last Friday. So we played a 3-game set in Boston. Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Orioles won two of three of that ones. They were 2-1. Then they were supposed to go to Miami to play the Miami Marlins for 3 games, I believe, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And then they were going to come home on Thursday, I believe, and play the New York Yankees for a homestand here. I believe that's how it goes. I think we were supposed to play the Yankees, or it was supposed to be Tampa Bay, but because the Miami Marlins had to cancel all the games with the Orioles because 14 players on the team have contracted the virus. So, Florida itself is one of the hot spots. And despite the fact that they've tried their best to social distance, stuff like that, Miami Marlins players did, in fact, get infected. So they did not want to endanger the Orioles or any other team. Plus, the Miami Marlins had already played in Philadelphia, I believe, or Atlanta or something. So the virus is all over the place now with all this traveling going on. So we don't know what's going to happen with that. So then they canceled 2 games with the Marlins, and I think they either moved up the Yankees games, and then what they'll do is when they were supposed to play the Yankees, they'll make up the games with the Marlins. I think that's the way they're going to go right now. Today, we discovered that the St. Louis Cardinals also have multiple players and executives who have contracted the disease as well and have canceled and postponed games in their Central Division. So despite the fact that they just started playing baseball last weekend, we've already got 2 teams that had to have postponed games due to the virus concerns, and we'll see what comes down the pipe right now. But that is not a good sign of things to come when the season is only about a week old, and we already have 2 teams that have had to postpone games due to the virus. Now, the NBA players have it good. They're all stationed in one location. They have round-the-clock care and being checked on all the time. So there have been no new cases of COVID in the NBA since they started this bubble that they're calling the bubble right now. I don't know what's going on with the NHL. Literally, they just started today, so we'll see what happens in about a week or so to see if they get infected in some way as well. The fact that they play indoors, but they also have a good way of protecting themselves. We'll see. Now, that makes me think that there's a couple of Canadian hockey teams. We know for a fact that Toronto Blue Jays are not playing their games in Canada because Canada has closed the borders to the United States. So American baseball players cannot go to Canada, and the Toronto Blue Jays cannot play in Toronto. They're playing their home games in Buffalo, which is where their AAA team is. So I just got to think about, and the NBA doesn't matter because they're playing all their games in Orlando, Florida. So they're all in one area, so that doesn't really affect it. But the NHL, do they have any Canadian teams in their playoffs? I would assume they probably do. Are they going to be able to play games in their home parks, or is Canada shutting them down as well? They might make an exception for hockey, and that's not a Canadian jab. I'm just saying it's very possible that that's what could be happening. So that's what's going on in the world of sports. Harry Potter, His birthday, the fictional character's birthday, was yesterday, July 31st. The character itself turned 40 years old yesterday. So happy birthday, Harry Potter. You are now a middle-aged, not washed up, but middle-aged wizard now. So 40 years old yesterday. Hey, fall's coming. So guess what? Starbucks has declared that despite rumors earlier the year, the pumpkin spice latte will be back this year and out sooner than you think, probably closer to the end of August. So fans of the pumpkin spice latte, rejoice. Things are coming up. Today, August 1st, is also Spider-Man Day. Excuse me, geez. It's Spider-Man Day. So go read Spider-Man, watch Spider-Man movies, do whatever. Howard the Duck premiered on this day, I think in 1986. Howard the Duck is a really good movie for half the time, and the other half falls apart. It is also one of the weirdest movies you've ever seen, but it's actually much better than you might remember it, despite the fact that the Howard the Duck costume looks a little bit more freaky than the cats in the Cats movie that recently came out. But I still liked Howard the Duck. I saw it in the movie theaters because I liked it. I thought it was really cool, and George Lucas was connected to it. So I thought it was good anyway. And I've also talked about MTV's debut. The funny thing about MTV is probably for about 20 years, half their soon-to-be 40 years starting next year, half their time they were music television. They played videos all the time. It's what made celebrities in the 1980s out of musicians, out of Madonna, Michael Jackson, Van Halen, Elton John. All these guys became huge. Prince became hugely famous. Tom Petty, because of these videos, and they were played all the time, and everyone loved MTV, and I want my MTV from Dire Straits, stuff like that. And then they entered the 90s with hip hop and grunge and stuff like that, and that sort of got things going as well. But they started to move away once we get to the late 90s to more of a reality TV zone, and then they just sort of gave up on the music aspect of music television and now became like almost entirely reality shows, stuff like that, because they created the reality show with The Real World, which was a nice little change of pace from your constant music videos. And it was only for about an hour every week, so it wasn't like a big deal, but it became hugely popular. So they started doing it every 6 months or something like that. I love The Real World. I watched it for the first 4 or 5 seasons. Then I was like, nah, I'm done. But they kept going and going. Eventually it became pretty much wrote how they were going to do things, and there were other things that they've done as well. So MTV Music Video Awards still happen, even though there are really no videos. You see all those on YouTube and stuff like that now. So whatever. But hey, that's August 1st. Humongous headless mecha in Japan takes its first step. Now, Japan has been huge on their mecha. It's one of their most popular manga / anime stuff. I brought the story up a while ago that they were actually building a actual mecha in Japan, and apparently this week they've built everything but the head, and they wanted to test its walking capabilities, so it was able to walk a little bit without its head on. So that's kind of interesting as well. Yes, let's do that one now. The man who renamed the Star Wars movies. Now, it's not what you think. What this guy did basically was he took the existing names of the Star Wars movies and changed them and put them where he thought they actually should have gone to. I agree with some of them, but I also have issues with other ones that he said, and we'll talk about them in a second. Okay, here we go. So, why every Star Wars? The Phantom Menace, they changed it to The Rise of Skywalker. Episode 2 was Attack of the Clones. They changed it to Revenge of the Sith. Episode 3, which was Revenge of the Sith, they changed it to Attack of the Clones. Episode 4, New Hope, they changed that to Return of the Jedi. Empire Strikes Back, Attack of the Clones. Episode 4, New Hope, they changed that to Return of the Jedi. Empire Strikes Back was episode 5. They renamed that The Force Awakens. Return of the Jedi was episode 6. They renamed that The Last Jedi. Episode 7, The Force Awakens, was renamed The Empire Strikes Back. Episode 8, The Last Jedi, was named A New Hope. And episode 9, the last one, Rise of Skywalker, was named The Phantom Menace. Now, the reason why we find that interesting is because when you get to...
What happens in episode 1? We meet Anakin Skywalker, the Rise of Skywalker.
Yep.
Years later, we find out that Palpatine, leader of the Sith, have ordered an army to destroy the Jedi.
Yes, so that's why it was Revenge of the Sith. Revenge of this episode 3, the clones that the Sith created attacked and killed the Jedi. A New Hope was the New Hope was the Return of the Jedi. The Jedi makes the return. The Empire Strikes Back was changed to The Force Awakens because that's when Luke discovered he was a Jedi and was able to control it. Return of the Jedi was changed to The Last Jedi because he was the last Jedi at that time. The Force Awakens was changed to Empire Strikes Back because of the new Empire came to take over again. They had to have a new rebellion. The Last Jedi was named A New Hope because Rey was the one who was supposed to be everything. And the last one, Rise of Skywalker, was called The Phantom Menace because we didn't know what Palpatine was doing. I didn't know he actually did vocals on it, so that's how I would do it. So I guess I agree with that. With the second one, Attack of the Clones, being called Revenge of the Sith, I'm not exactly sure if I'm the biggest fan of that one because, yes, Palpatine created an army, but you didn't know what he was going to use it for. In the second one, you weren't going to know that until the third one, Revenge of the Sith, actually, which Attack of the Clones makes sense because they killed the Jedis with Order 66, but that's only a small portion of the movie, whereas the Revenge of the Sith itself was the Sith won everything in the third one, except for when Anakin got sliced and diced. So, for the most part, I agree with that. It's actually pretty clever, and check it out. You can probably find it on Facebook or... Come on. I don't have to do 2 episodes of this. I might have to. There we go. Emmett Cullen was played by actor Kellen Lutz in the Twilight movie. And someone who's watched the movie a billion times just noticed that during the whole movie, the character of Emmett is carrying around a bag of hard-boiled eggs. For whatever reason, I don't know. Maybe it's to make him look more human because, hey, he's a football player or a wrestler or whatever. He needs his protein, so that's why he's eating these eggs. But it's been told in that book and in the movie that vampires cannot eat human food. It makes them vomit. So why go to all that extreme just so people will be less suspecting you of being a vampire because you're carrying around a bag of hard-boiled eggs? So it's interesting, but it's a literal Easter egg because Easter eggs are mostly hard-boiled eggs when you make them. So it's kind of interesting. Video game Beyond Good and Evil is getting a Netflix film from the director of Detective Pikachu. I don't know much about that video game, but Detective Pikachu is brilliant. So if it's a good thing, it's a good thing. Hunt Camp. Of the case, there's 597 attendees, 260 tested positive. 51% of those who tested positive were kids aged 6 to 10. The remaining 49%, were kids the age of 11 to 17. So Georgia is another one of those hot spots. Again, this is never going away till greedy people decide that they've got to figure out a way to just get through their stuff and let's just hunker down for a couple of weeks and we'll be back to normal if you just do that. So that first dog in the United States died of the disease. So it was a shame. People were not sure exactly how it was going to affect pets, but here we are. It has affected animals in that way. Speaking of Netflix is doing a remake of the Alfred Hitchcock movie Rebecca. It's going to star Kristen Scott Thomas, Armie Hammer, and Lily James. Rebecca was considered one of Hitchcock's greatest films. It's about a woman who marries a guy, and the guy can't get over the death of his first wife. It's kind of a weird psychological sort of thriller thing, but it's going to be straight to Netflix. curious elongated cloud reappears on Mars, but it's not what you think it was. It was expected by scientists because they've been studying it for years. It always appears in the southern hemisphere, and it forms early in the morning, hangs out, for about 3 hours, grows in 3 hours, and then disappears and does not return for 80 days. Scientists do not understand how or why this is forming, but it always seems to be in the same place, same time frame, every 80 days. They don't know what that is. That's one of the things that they're adding to their list that they want to try to investigate and figure out what is going on with that. Some local news. Friday, Maryland was buffeted by a bunch of heavy storms. We just got a lot of rain. We didn't get any really thunder or lightning, but water spouts were spotted in the Chesapeake Bay, which means basically our tornadoes in the water. They're not as big, or can be. They can be big and powerful. There was one that hit Miami years ago, but these water spouts are basically tornadoes in the water. So we had some spotted through the storms yesterday. And we're supposed to have, as I said, the hurricane possibly roll through on Tuesday. We're supposed to get some more rain tonight. Should be pretty much clear day tomorrow, with some more storms rolling through tomorrow night. And then, of course, most of the rain on Monday. And then Tuesday, we'll see what happens with the hurricane. So we'll see what's going on with that. Other local news that I'm excited about, and I am more than excited. I am absolutely beside myself about this. Since March 23rd, it has been 130 days since I've been out of work. And around that same time is when Maryland went into its state of emergency because of COVID-19, and the governor ordered quarantines, non-essential places to close down. That include, at that time, regular shops like my comic shop. And I have an unhealthy obsession with Yankee Candle. I love Yankee Candle. I don't know, it's a weird little obsession, but I love it. During quarantine, I have been unable to go to the local shop in Hunt Valley to browse, smell the candles I like, buy the ones I want to get sprays that we have. We have some sprays down here behind the flamingo and upstairs. They only last for about a month, and then I got to get new ones. So I started an account on yankeecandle.com, and I ordered one order of 4 candles and 6 of my my filter things. So I've already burned through my candles and burned through my filter stuff. So I was preparing to get myself another order set because they have finally released their fall smells, and they sound extraordinary this year. So I want them all. When I got an email that yesterday, Yankee Candle is now officially reopened in Hunt Valley. So I'm like, I'm not going to go tomorrow, but I'll probably go on Monday and get myself some candle stuff and smell these new fall candles and get some of these new fall candles. They've got a 75% off sale, because you got to think about that. They've been shut down since March 23rd, and no one's probably been there, not even the guys that run the place. So they probably have their old school stuff still there. The ones the scents they had from March up there, all their like old Christmas stuff and stuff like that they have to return, stuff like that. They haven't been able to get any of their like spring stuff set up properly and stuff like that. Now you're into summer, you didn't get any of the summer stuff set up. So now you've got to get into fall right now. So it must have been really weird to walk in and say, wow, it's been like 3 or 4 months since we've been open, and now we got to clean all this up. But they're open now, and I'm excited beyond belief, and I'm going to get myself some Yankee Candles this week. Friday the 13th is joining the ranks of movies that have board games now. The Friday the 13th board game is now available. It's not available on Amazon yet, but it is available out and about if you want to order it online at its actual game place that they got it. Sounds pretty interesting, but that also in turn got me thinking about video games, and there was a Friday the 13th video game for the Switch that I saw. Is at a very low price of around $20. It's like, I might actually have to buy that. It's all of the different like packs and stuff combined into one game, and you can either play as Jason or one of the camp counselors, and you can unlock all of the Jason outfits and masks and stuff like that through all the movies. And it looks actually really cool. So I think I might actually buy that for my Switch that I got for my birthday. A cult TV show I have never heard of before called Werewolf is getting its first ever actual release on DVD Blu-ray 32 years after its last episode. Now, there have been bootleg copies that have been out there for fans of the show. I've never heard of this show. I don't even know who's in it, but apparently it was a cult TV show, and it's now going to be getting an actual real release of Blu-ray / DVDs, and eventually it might show up on one of the streaming services as well. I've never been a real big Tom Taylor comic book writer fan. He's a really interesting Australian writer who looks a lot like Tom King, who I like a lot. They make jokes about that all the time. Tom Taylor was also the guy who wrote a splendid weekend-long Twitter thread a couple of years ago when he went to a haunted cabin in the woods, and he recounted all the horrible things that had happened to him during that stay in the cabin. Now, there's some speculation that it was all set up and that he was just doing that as a joke while he was doing his writing, that none of that stuff actually happened, but he had videotape of weird noises and stuff like that, and weird things showing up when they shouldn't be, and weird people showing up when they shouldn't be. So it's hard to tell if it was real or not real, but it was still one of the most entertaining threads I have ever read, and one of the most interesting. He is best known for writing lots of alternate reality stories for DC. He started it with the Injustice prequel. Injustice was a video game that had DC cartoon heroes fighting each other. It also focused on an evil Superman and all that stuff. And so he wrote the comic book prequel about how that came to be, and it became a big deal, and it spanned over 5 volumes. And now they have a Year Zero has been teased by Tom Taylor. That's going to focus on the JSA and how all this started as well. So it should be interesting to see if that's going to happen. IFC, the independent film channel, as I've talked about some of the independent films that they're going to be releasing on video on demand and stuff like that. They've been revealing trailers on Facebook, stuff like that. They have a new one out now called Sputnik. In the story, a group of Russians go into space, and something happens on the mission, and only one of the Russians comes back alive. So they quarantine him and discover that at night he is infected by, or a parasite possesses him. And the Russians pretty much knew this already, that was going to happen. So they want to try to weaponize this parasite, sort of like an alien, from Alien, the movie. It's sort of like their version of like Alien in that. So they bring in a woman who is a former disgraced medical doctor who wants her to remove the parasite from the man so that they can control it and weaponize it and turn it into a weapon. And that's where the horror begins. So the trailer looks, exactly what you expect it to be, a horror sci-fi film in the vein of an Alien type movie. So, check it out if you want. Fortnite update. As I said, I haven't played Fortnite in over about 36 hours, but today, August 1st, was the final day of the water dropping. So the last bit of water that's been a constant since mid-June when the new season started is now back under control. Now the land is pretty much all over the place. Still bits of water here and there, but not nearly as much as there was before. So there's new maps. Sites that were underwater that people used to go to in the old series have now come back full strength. So now I can go back and go through them again. There's also today introduced was their Atlantis, which was supposed to be Atlantis since they introduced Aquaman and Black Manta, but at the end they called it the Coral Castle, which is sort of similar to Atlantis. So that's appearing now, so you can go explore that as well. That means that cars should be coming really soon, hopefully. And the end of the season is supposed to be end of August, but because of the delay with the cars, might push it into September. And also the alien spaceship has been hidden underwater and has been rumored to have an event attached to it has now fully come out of the water as well. So now you can investigate that as well. So keep your eyes out for any things you're going to have to do for that if you're a Fortnite player. And I'll get back to that probably not tonight, but tomorrow sometime. I'll probably get to that. Pokemon Go Fest, my final thoughts on that and other stuff that's going on in Pokemon World. So last week, I got news about what the second day was going to be. And if you watched the episode, you knew I was less than excited that it was going to be a rocket event. In the end, it still wasn't as grand as I thought it would be. They still released some of the Pokemon from day one, but they were not in their, this hour was water, this hour was ground, so on and so forth. They were just spawned whenever. And Team Rocket kept coming, but they vastly weakened Team Rocket so that you could clear out and get as many shadow Pokemon as you can and get your way through the big bosses to get to Giovanni, so you get Shadow Mewtwo. And once you got Shadow Mewtwo, you were then able to go and get Victini, which was the mythical that they wanted to get out as well. So it took me about 3 hours to clear out everything, but I was able to do that. So now you had about 7 more hours of the game, and I was just tired of it. I did everything I needed to. Again, the shiny ratio was not great. So I think I got 3 straight shinies of one type, which is annoying. I had never gotten one before, but in the end, it wasn't too bad because I hadn't gotten one before, so I got that one, and then it has only one evolution, so I got to evolve that to have a shiny evolution. Then a third one that I traded to Dawn for a shiny I didn't have. So in the end, it sort of worked out, but still, I would wish I would have had more wide variety of shinies than the same one 3 times over the span of the 10 hours or so. I didn't even play the whole 10 hours because it was just, okay, I'm bored and candies and fruits, and I got Shadow Mewtwo, and then the Rocket people keep coming, and I'm tired of fighting the Rocket people, and I don't want to go through Giovanni because I wouldn't get Shadow Mewtwo again. I wouldn't get Victini again. You would end up getting the Panther that he has. I always forget the name of it. So we had that. So, but I don't know if you remember, but when I saw out it last week, there was issues early on about the friends thing not working, and it was hard to catch some of the fire ones. Well, Pokemon Go heard your cries, and they will be doing a sort of a redo for about 3 hours on August 16th. Where they'll be redoing and only for people who got the Go Fest passes, so people like me and my wife, will be redoing 3 hours of the events, like the water, the friendship one, and the fire one. They're just going to redo those because we were having issues, getting on with the servers down like that. So they wanted to make it up to us. So they're going to do the special event just for us to get those in. So that'll be interesting as well. This week kicks off the Dragon event, which has been less than impressive. I'm almost done the Dragon event, and you're supposed to be getting, more dinos and other types of dragon types, and they have not been showing up as often as they have been. I haven't gotten a shiny yet of any of them yet, so I'm sort of pissed about that. And it's just I got to throw excellent throws. It's really hard to do excellent throws to finish the research, so that's taking a little bit more time than I wanted to. And on top of that, also, we got the newest Community Day. That'll be Magikarp Community Day on August 8th. I think it's next weekend. Yeah, August 8th. This next weekend is Magikarp Community Day. We've already had like a Magikarp event. Maybe even been a community day. I don't remember. We've already had one. And in order to get its evolution, you need to get 400 candies. So that means you've got to catch roughly so you get 3 candies per catch, and then if you just end up transferring it, you get an additional candy, so you get 4 candies per catch. So you've got to catch 100 of them to get the evolution out. The evolution is, I think, Aqua Tail, which is going to be good for Gyarados, and plus it has double Stardust, I think, which I guess is okay, but it just seems it's Magikarp Community Day. It's boring. We used to do the starters, and we stopped at the Gen 4 starters. We haven't gotten we haven't done any new starters, and we haven't done any of the other like newer Pokemon that we want to get more of, that people need to get more of. We want to get some shinies in. So they keep rehashing these old ones over and over again. So it gets kind of boring after a while. So we'll see what happens. But there's that. So going to get a little bit more political now, about an hour in here. Asshole in charge of the White House is trying to ban TikTok. I really don't think you legally can, asshole, due to the fact that I don't think the government owns TikTok. They can ban it on government phones, but I don't think you can ban it from the whole United States. It's called censorship, you stupid twat. And on top of that, too, he was saying that maybe we should cancel the election. Again, I think he's saying all this stuff to deflect from other things that have been popping up recently, which I'm not going to get into. That's a whole nother ball of wax. But he said that. But let's be perfectly clear about this. He has no way to do it. It's in the Constitution that Congress is the only one who can declare the change in the date for the election. Plus, on top of that, if the election has not occurred, or you have a dispute over who the president is, when January 20th hits, the next senior member in the in Congress who's not up for election will be the president until this is all knocked out. Now, normally you'd think that'd be the Speaker of the House, but I think Nancy Pelosi has an election that she's up against. I don't know, though. If Nancy Pelosi does not have an election in November, that means that if there's no election, there's no disputing it. She's fulfilling her contract. She would become president on January 20th until the presidency was decided either by a vote or someone concedes. I think if Pelosi is up for nominate, it's another Democrat is in charge of becomes president, like Lackey or Leahy or something like that. I don't know. But the funny thing is, because Mitch McConnell, who's the Senate Majority Leader, he's up for an election year. If there's no elections held, the Democrats actually take over the Senate. So if he decides to cancel the elections or move it up or whatever, or goes through January 20th, he's not going to be president on January 20th because that's rules and the Constitution. So it could totally backfire on him. So he's already stepped back and said, I never said that. Yeah, you did, you stupid fuck. All right, so that's done about that. And then the other thing, the asshole's border wall that he's been putting up, racist border wall he's been putting up. Actually, there's video of a bunch of those walls that he put up have been destroyed by the hurricane that rolled through there last weekend. So take that. It's God's way of saying you're not supposed to do this stupid wall, you racist fuck. Finally, non-political stuff. I'm going to talk about this just real quick. I've been finishing up a book that my daughter got me for my birthday about cryptids in all 50 states. It's 50 chapters, all divided by state, and it details real quick specific cryptids in each state with little blurbs about them. I'm almost done. I think I have 2 states left and I'll be done the book. It's entertaining for the most part. I learned some stuff and stuff I already knew about and so forth. Like West Virginia would talk all about Mothman. They had a big bit about that. But there's other stuff like, there's one called like Jeffy or something like that. But the one thing that I did notice while reading this is that most states, not all of them, but most states at one time or another have had rumors of seeing giants and little people in their state doing different things. They have different names for them, but the Indians have said it, and people from the 1800s and early 1900s have seen them as well. Bones, stuff like that, discovered. Now, some people faked a lot of this stuff. At the same time, though, it's all over everything. And so most states have at least one declaration that there was a giant or there was little people. I find that interesting. Another thing is that all but Hawaii, every 50 state but Hawaii, has seen Bigfoot. There's been Bigfoot sighting in every state except Hawaii for obvious reasons. So that's interesting. another thing that was interesting was that lake monsters seem to be in every body of water, rivers, lakes, oceans, stuff like that. I mean, we have Chessie, the Chesapeake Bay monster. But there seems to be lake monsters in every state also in some form or another. And Indians, again, Native Americans saying there's giant monsters in these lakes. And they've also seen Bigfoot type creatures before. So you get to the point where when everybody is saying the same thing, in some cases from all the way back than before American or immigrants came to America, when it was still Native American land, all the way to the 1700s and 1800s with people seeing stuff they didn't understand. Now, you could say that they're not educated, they don't know. It's like new stuff. It's like being in a new country, new world. You don't know half these creatures, so they might have mistakenly identified some things. But when it always seems like there's always a Bigfoot sighting, a lake monster sighting, giants, little people, and also giant birds is another one also. And even like and dinosaurs, pterosaurs, stuff like that. Giant birds have also been sighted all over the place as well. And then monsters that have appeared in states that share a border is another one also. So they're going back and forth. So it starts to get to the point where you're like, that's interesting. Wow, I got a lot to go and I'm an hour in. Let's see if I can roll through these here. Heineken Stadium in a Box is a new way to get baseball sent to your home with Heineken. It's a contest where you can get your own personal baseball experience despite the fact you can't go to the stadium. So that's pretty cool. Shark Boy and Lava Girl, which is a really terrible movie from the 2000s, will be reuniting and reteaming in a Netflix film later on as adults later on this year. I believe Shark Boy was played by the guy who played Jacob in the Twilight movies, so werewolf. So I'm wondering if he'll be back for that role or if they're real recast. Michaels, I might actually have to check this out because there's a Michaels near us, is going to be selling pre-lit black Halloween trees for Halloween. I think that might be pretty cool to check out. They're already pre-lit. They're not real trees. Obviously, they're the fake trees like we have for Christmas. So I might actually check that out and maybe pick up one of those for my holiday. I will find out for sure if we can do that as well. Discovered that Bryan Cranston had COVID-19. He no longer has it. He's recovered, but he did have it at one time. So he joins people like Tom Hanks and Rita Wilson who had it as well, but have recovered. A roller coaster traps riders 150 feet in the air for over an hour. That's a scary thing that I've seen actually personally happen. When I was at Hershey Park a few years ago, we were at the wave pool in the water park, and there was a bit of a roller coaster you could see from the wave park, and there was a car stuck there for about an hour. It wasn't as high up in the air like this one was. It was sort of cut in one of the turns, but still kind of scary when you're still above because you're still above the ground roller coaster. So you're afraid something's going to happen. For some reason, I believe I've discussed this one before, but I'm going to bring it up again because I think it's a really nice story. A missing 3-year-old boy has been discovered alive, and while discussing things with his parents, stuff like that, he said that a bear protected him and kept alive. So I think that's really cool. I believe it's true because why would a 3-year-old make up something like that? I believe it's true, and I believe that bears, they look after young as well. Speaking of bears, this is sad news. 4 bears have been struck by vehicles in the past 3 weeks in Yosemite, 2 of which were killed by the accidents. Just drive more safely through the national parks because you're just visiting. This is their home, all right? And just be more careful, all right? It's a shame that happened. An Erie pool has been found. I think I talked about this also. 700 feet in a New Mexico. It's 700 feet deep in a New Mexico cave that's never been touched by humans, and it may contain bacteria that has also never been touched by humans. That in the end, create new viruses, kill us. Thanks, 2020. A 66 million-year-old giant egg was discovered in Antarctica. So there's another thing. Like, okay, a lot of stuff been coming out of Antarctica, and these aren't from those two stories. Aren't from like fringe websites that I've done some of the stories for. These are actual other websites, so that's kind of interesting as well. Amy Adams to star in the movie Night Bitch, about a woman who thinks she is turning into a dog. Night Bitch. Sounds like it could be kind of fun. Fun type of movie. The original Halloween movie, Halloween 4, which is much better than it should be, and Halloween 5, which is absolutely horrendous, are all returning to drive-in movie theaters this summer, since right now, up until August, mid-August, end of August, that's the only way you'll be able to see movies. Let's see if I can find that article, because there's some movie news that I need to talk about as well. Let's see if I can find that. Yeah, Regal Cinemas will be reopening their theaters on August 21st. That is official, so that's going to happen. Tenet has finally gotten a new date. It is going to be released on September 3rd. So it was supposed to come out August 31st, and now it's just jumped 3 days to the 3rd. So it'll be out on September 3rd. Start the beginning of the new movie, movie time, movie stuff. Where's the other thing? AMC Theaters. I know what it is. I just need to find it right now. AMC Theaters, can't find it right now, has made a deal. Yeah, there we go. Universal AMC have agreed to a 17-day theatrical window. Now, remember earlier this year, I talked about how AMC was at war with Universal Studios, because Universal said that once COVID-19 was over and theaters reopened, that they were contemplating releasing their big hits like the Fate of the Furious movies and stuff like that directly to video on demand the day they come out, and they'll also be available in movie theaters. That pissed off the AMC movie theater chain, because they says, why would people come to the movie theater to watch our movie when they can watch it from the comfort of their own home? So they said they would never show Universal films ever again. And they got into a big argument, but now they made a deal where Universal will allow their films to be in AMC movies and only AMC theaters for 17 days, which is 2.5 weeks. And then after that, you can keep it in movie theaters if you want. But they are going to release it on video on demand so people can see it at home. So if it's a movie you really, 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 really want to see and don't want to wait 2.5 weeks for, go to the movie theater and watch it, and all will be good. But if you're like, you know what, I'll see it when I see it, and you can wait 2.5 weeks, there you go. You can watch it from the safety of your own home. So we will see what happens with that. So that's what's going on with that. We will see if August 21st is still going to be the date that they open theaters. That's in 20 days. There's no sign that this virus is going away anytime soon. So we'll see. Rare black leopard was spotted drinking from a pool on an Indian reserve in Australia. So it's always great to see a black leopard. We've had black panthers, but never black leopards. This week, the new Mars rover Perseverance has launched and is now heading toward Mars for a February 2021 landing. Also part of this Perseverance rover is the first ever helicopter, mini helicopter drone thing that will be flying along the surface of, up higher in the skies of Mars, getting pictures that way to see if it can work. So it's an interesting way. Perseverance landing in a crater, which is said to have been a lake bed, and it's going to try to determine if they can discover ancient life or water, stuff like that as well. And the helicopter, if it succeeds, it's going to show it how it can get a better, closer aerial view of a longer path. Instead of having the rover take years to cover the same path, it'll just take hours for the helicopter to fly over and get pictures of parts of Mars, and map the surface a little bit closer to home. The Beatles, here's a Beatles story you didn't expect to hear, approached Stanley Kubrick, who to me is one of the most overrated directors, but that's for a whole nother discussion another time. Regardless, the Beatles approached Stanley Kubrick. This is in like the mid-'60s when Kubrick was still huge, and discussed with him about making a Lord of the Rings film that he would direct that would star the Beatles. be kind of cool, actually, I think. But here's the rub. Stanley Kubrick hated the Beatles. He hated them because he lived 3 doors down from them. And whenever they played their music, it detested him because he hated the music and he found it indecipherable. So we could have gotten our first Lord of the Rings film. It could have been the Beatles, and that could have been a very lovely disaster. Could have been interesting to see that, but not going to happen. Wild monkey pulls up on a scooter and attempts to kidnap a child. Animals are evolving, y'all. There's video of it. It's kind of interesting. Supernatural stuff. Native American tribe regains ownership of the Big Sur ancestral lands after 250 years. That's another big win for the Native Americans. They also won part of Oklahoma as well, which is great. So I'm all for this. I think it's fantastic. And for the Native Americans, they also won part of Oklahoma as well, which is great. So I'm all for this. I think it's fantastic. I was surprised when I saw an ad for a new animated film from DC, who does pretty good animated films. This one was an animated version of Batman Death in the Family, which, for those who don't remember, that story was the Jason Todd Robin. Was written by Jim Starlin to be a real dick. And because he had the storyline planned out in his head, and Jason Todd started to lose control a little bit, was getting a little bit more violent towards the criminals, and that was against Batman's code. So Jason was an orphan. He didn't know who his parents were. So during the Death in the Family story, he discovers that his mom is alive and is being held captive by the Joker in a Middle Eastern town. So despite what Batman said, Batman didn't believe. He thought it was a trick and wanted Jason to stay till he investigated more. Jason always, huffing and puffing and ignoring Batman because he was against the authority. He went to find his mother, discovered that it was Khan, that it wasn't his mother, but it was a trick by the Joker to bring Robin here. And the Joker beats the shit out of him with a crowbar and then blows him up. Now, Batman, once he discovered that Jason was on the way, he ran after him to try to catch him, got there too late, and iconic scene of him carrying Jason's bloody body out of the destroyed bunker is indelibly in everybody's head. Now, here's the rub. In the 1980s, when this first came out, I remember because I was collecting Batman at the time, I had the original Death in the Family issues somewhere in these boxes somewhere. They wanted to do a call-in, because at that time the 1-800 or 1-900 numbers were a huge thing. This was before the internet, y'all. So they wanted to have a call-in. It says, if you want Robin to live, call this number. If you want Robin to die, call this number. They will cut off at a certain time, so you have like a week to call in. It's going to cost like $1.99 or whatever a minute to do that, and you just got to call the vote. And then whoever has the most vote, the next issue will release the winner of the vote. If he lives, they had a storyline planned out for him living. If he died, they have a storyline planned out for him if he died. Everyone picked him to die because they were annoyed with the character. They did not like the character. And that's basically, I think, what Jim Starlin wanted to do anyway, and he killed him off. So it became a big deal. It's kind of interesting. So now here we are in 2020, which is like almost 40 years later from when the story first came out, maybe even closer to 35 years if you want to think about it. They released the animated film. But they're doing something similar to what they did with the phones. Instead of the phones, they're doing it a choose your own adventure style on the video. So you get to pick after the Joker beats the crap out of Robin, you get to pick one of 3 choices. Does he die? Does he live? And does he get out? Does he get out of the thing? But I forget the third one. But each one would lead to another set of stories. So they've animated a whole bunch of other stories. I think you have to pick and choose some other stuff as well. And so you're going to connect all this stuff together. So you can have at least 3 or 4 different stories. And in case one where Jason Todd is still Robin, one where Jason Todd is dead and comes back to life as the Red Hood, and then who knows what the third one is about. I think that's kind of interesting. They did something like that with that Black Mirror show that was on Netflix, where they had you choose your own adventure sort of thing. I thought it was a neat idea. Saw the trailer for it, thought it was great. Speaking of trailers, Liam Neeson and his son with Natasha Richardson. Natasha Richardson died in a ski accident years ago. They had made a movie together called Made in Italy. Now, Liam Neeson's been recently in a lot more films where he's been an action star, violent, doing all kinds of stuff. This is the first time where he's getting back to playing some normal roles, and he's actually acting across from his real-life son. And in this case, they do play estranged father and son. To clean it up and sell it, had left it after the mother died, and the son and the father got separated. So now we come into the hour and a half section here. I'm going to try to finish this up using it. I thought that was kind of cool. Ryan Reynolds also made news because he was doing a good thing. He was trying to help a young girl, probably in her 20s, try to find the Teddy Ruxpin doll that used to talk, that had it, and everything's good and happy again. I'm just going to keep going. If the connection gets all fuzzy, I apologize. I just want to get this over and done with. 3 teenagers are hospitalized after doing the Benadryl challenge, where they overdose on Benadryl, which you can get over the counter. It's supposed to bring about hallucinations, but they've been hospitalized, and people are saying, don't do stupid stuff like that and videotape it, morons. Ellen is getting ready to shut down her TV show after allegations that she is doing all kinds of terrible things to her staff. It makes a lot of sense. We'll see what happens. A woman discovers her boyfriend always tries to angry because this mixed sex is so much. Maybe I should try that on my wife. It doesn't quite work like that. She just ignores me like she does even when I want to have sex. But that's besides the point. Anyway, is that everything on this page? Yes, it is. So now we're on the last page. No, I'm not. I've got 2 full freaking pages. I might have to stop and restart again because we are having. No, I'm just going to keep going. So we got a full page and a half left to go. So let's just keep going through it. So the Pops have released their new Christmas Pops. They've got Harry Potter ones. They've got DC superhero ones. They got Die Hard is finally cool. Terrence Winter, Nicholas Pileggi, Brian Grazer developing a mob TV show. Popping up. Fortnite, Mushroom, that's been known to come out. Somebody took Raiders of the Lost Ark. On Demon Sperm Alien DNA Doctor is now used by the asshole in charge as being on the NFL Network's top 100 players of the year. He was number 1.